Hello, here we are today for the next Superintendent Spotlight. I'm Amber Bock, and it's been a while since I've actually been able to have a spotlight. I've been waiting for you people a long time. Today, this is the hardest group I had to get together with, and I wanted to wait because I can't tell you enough how much I'm looking forward to talking with these guys. This group here represents our Redshift robotics team at the high school. Lou Lung as their fearless leader and mentor, who I'm in awe of. And so today it's a chance for us to talk with this group and have them share with you kind of what goes on behind the scenes with Redshift and robotics in Westborough. So this is the purpose of our show, is always just a chance for you to get insights, like getting an opportunity to be in the school, to see what goes on with our students, who I think are pretty amazing. And they prove that to you just if you just listen to them. This is always fun. One of the things we always hear about is, who are those cars that are over at the high school on Saturday at 10 o'clock at night? There they are. This is the team. These guys live at the high school. They do so much amazing work with Redshift, and I can't wait to hear about this year's robot. So why don't we do a quick round of hellos? You can say just your name and your year, and then we'll dive into questions. I really want you guys to do the majority of the talking and just let us know what's going on this year with the robot. So why don't we start with you?
I'm Andrea. I'm a senior, and I'm part of imagery.
I'm Saloni, and I'm also a senior, and I'm part of mechanical.
I'm Noah. I'm a junior, and I do software.
I'm Sam. I'm a junior, and I work on the electrical team.
I'm Cheyenne. I'm a junior. I do mechanical and CAD.
I'm Evan. I do mechanical and electrical.
I'm Sharon. I'm a sophomore, and I do hardware.
I'm Savannah. I'm also a sophomore, and I do mechanical, and I also dabble a bit in CAD.
And I'm Louis Lung, and I tell these guys what to do.
So first of all, I'm already in awe that you have all of your little roles and things, and I also know that they're also flexible. And do you do some cross training as well in your different groups? Like you have a couple specialties. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to ask lots of questions because I'm the person who doesn't know anything. I know a bit, but I'll certainly pretend to ask questions people might wonder. So first of all, you guys represent a slice of Redshift, which is our robotics team. Lou, how long have we been in existence now?
We started, our first year was 2012, I think it was.
So you had
it's a little while ago.
Yeah, because I came in 2014. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I think you guys were new, and then now look at you, crazy.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, but 13 years went by pretty quickly.
It did. It flew by. I know. I feel like 10 flew by fast. So how many people are on your team overall?
It varies. This year, I think we're in the mid 50s.
Okay. And you have kind of requirements, like you can't just kind of be there. You got to dig in and be committed. It's a pretty.
You have to do
group.
something.
Yeah, you're both. You're inclusive to give people to come in and dabble and figure it out. But my sense is that your 50 are committed in different ranges where they want to train and come in over time. So. So you guys build a big robot each year, and I'm wondering if somebody could give an overview. Like, let's say nobody has any sense, if they're listening, like, what is a robotics team? Can somebody provide a snapshot of kind of the annual event and kind of how it happens, and we'll go.
So every year, a sort of game gets announced by First Robotics, and it's a day we call kickoff, and we all come into the school and we watch a live stream of the announcement of the game and messages about from sponsors and all that stuff. And then immediately after that, the sort of rule book for the game is outlined, and we all read it. And it is basically we have a sorry we have the game manual that we read, and then we think about strategy, and we discuss with each other, and we figure out what we want to try to do to meet sort of this game's design. This year, we have a game where we have to shoot these foam rings into a it's like music themed, because every year there's a theme, and they're called notes. They're like whole notes, I guess.
Yeah, so you're shooting whole notes. Yeah,
they're shooting them into what they call the speaker. Is the main scoring mechanism, without getting into too many details of the actual game. And so we're we decided like how we want to intake the piece, how we want to shoot the piece, all these things we have to consider.
So I love this. Let's just keep playing off of this and let you guys explain it to me. I know the year where it was shooting the basketball's a favorite, an absolute favorite for me. So you get this challenge. It's announced with a lot of fanfare. It's kind of a cool thing. I've watched that. And the theme is always different. But there's always parameters of a playing field, which is basically where the robots kind of battle it out and are trying to earn points and score things, right? So tell me then, do you look at last year's robot? Tell me a little bit about last year's robot and how it did, and then how this robot is different.
Oh, sure. Well, last year's game obviously was completely different from this year's. It was kind of, we had like sort of a tic-tac-toe board with different slots. We had cones and cubes that we could score. So last year's robot was essentially a giant arm that would pick up the cones and the cubes and score them in different notes, is what they were called. So last year's robot was a lot taller and a lot more robust than this year, because this year we are trying to focus on quick scoring and quick movement. So we're a lot smaller. We've got our shooter, and our robot's designed to be more scoring efficient as opposed to robust and better for defensive plays.
No, I love that. I love the subtlety. So the subtlety between, like, the big thing is like how you design the robot to meet the challenge. And then you guys dive into, do you start with just brainstorming? Tell me how, like, I know when the thing is announced, you all just start with lots of discussion. How do you guys manage the discussion with, like, all those people and with your mentors there? Like, tell me what it looks like on the ground.
So because the team is 50 people, it can get pretty hectic. So on the kickoff day where they show us the game, all of us sit down. We all, after we've read the game manual, which shows the rules, which is really important, we get a day. We just think a lot. We start writing down, drawing ideas, sketches, things that we think are going to be important in the game, things that aren't going to be important. And so usually the next day, two things happen. The first one is the whole team, everybody is open to share their ideas. If anyone had any idea for a certain part of the game or something else, they can share it. And we also discuss what aspects of the game we think are the most important. Like, you might have an idea, a design for this one small part of the game, and it could be great at that. But if we decide that ultimately it's not important enough to sink some time into, we kind of put it on the back burner, instead focus on the things we think are more important.
I love that analysis. I'm trying to think. So you start an iterative design process, which I know comes a little bit later, as you start to look at like what works and what doesn't work. So as seniors on the team, and you talked about your different roles, tell me how you start plugging in on this and what's happening when everybody's debating their ideas. And I love the description. I've been there when you guys have done that a couple years ago, where you were sharing your ideas after the game had just been announced, and it was just really interesting to watch. People have strong feelings about their ideas, but even in the early stages, what I was really struck by is just the idea, it's going to get part of an iterative design. So you're kind of learning to defend the pieces you feel most strongly about because you want them to end up on the robot. So I think it's just kind of an interesting process. So where does it go from there?
Well, the design, it gets kind of hectic sometimes, but I think because we all know each other pretty well, it's like we can sort of get over our own biases and really cooperate pretty well on coming up with a cohesive design, which is what we did this year. I think the design went pretty well. At least the discussion went pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, there was obviously our roadblocks. I mean, there's no way to not have that. It's like you're gonna have something go wrong, but I think together we usually get over it pretty well. Like I said, we're all kind of friends here, so it works out. But then, once that design sort of gets like done with, or at least towards the final stages, we all we got to get into it because it's a pretty short build season.
It is.
2 months. I mean, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it is.
So we really just try to get into it as much as we can. So
I love that. So I'm getting a picture now. I have somewhat of a picture. You get the challenge. You've got the game field. You know how you did last year. You know where your strengths are. You're building in new people. Tell me how you build team. Like, you guys do have a very, what do you think? Like, you guys spend lots of time in school, but you're all different ages, different friendship groups, different schedules. Tell me what it's like to be in this group, and how have you built the teaming structure, and you have become friends? Like, how does that evolve? Like, just tell me a little bit about the informal and formal process.
Yes.
I mean, I think partially it just happens naturally. We spend 3 hours during the weekdays, 7 hours during weekends a day together most of the time, and the close proximity in a
Yeah,
way.
forced friendship proximity, right?
In a way, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're also a big enough group that you can sort into kind of like different areas where you find your people that you kind of have the same humor with and the same. Now, my sense is, do you leave it that there's also, it's intense, but not. I want to hear more about how you guys all like hang out and what happens when you're all doing these 10 hours.
Is it
So
fun?
yeah, I think there's a value to we all have similar interests. We're all passionate about it, and I think that's a really big part of building friendships is having that communal interest and a sense of community,
Yep.
and that you don't like someone might be friends with people in their sport. It's a very similar thing that it's
Yep.
just you have this passion for something and you relate to all these people. We all have things in common, and we all contribute, and we all appreciate what everyone does on the team. And I think that really goes to just strengthening friendships. There, within a community, you get inside jokes, you get all this
Yeah.
time, all these things that happen that, build these relationships, which I think is really valuable.
I have to hear the inside jokes, but only if they can be told in public.
Oh, and I also want to point out, we do have different groups. And you heard about imagery and software and mechanical and so on. But a lot of the students also just help out wherever they can. So just because you're in one group doesn't mean you can't just jump into somewhere else. And as long as you've gone through some training or you kind of know what to do, people are more than happy and willing and able to just do what's needed to get the job done. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I've seen that at play.
Yeah, so I said I was part of mechanical, but when I was an underclassman, I actually hung out with imagery a lot. It was because you have 50 people. It's hard to have 50 people on one robot. So like Lou said, we kind of go around to different spots to see where we can help. So I was one of those stragglers on the side. So I'm like, I would love to do mechanical, but you know what? Imagery needs some help. Might as well go help them. So, and that was also a pretty interesting experience because I got to see a lot of different things around. Especially when I was younger, it really helped sort of set my mind on what do I want to do in the future too. Like, I went around to electrical, see what they're up to. Maybe software wasn't my thing, but, I tried, but wasn't really into it. But, I feel like having so many different parts of the team and being able to go to each part, it really helps you find what you want to do.
I love that. You, Andrea, you do imagery. So tell our audience a little bit about what that role is.
I guess imagery is like just making the team look cool during competitions.
Which is key.
Which is important.
We design the T-shirts so everyone looks like uniform, and also
Let's see, he's got one.
I love that one. Rapid React.
It's
Is
a
that
new shirt
this
every year.
year's?
This was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Basketball game.
Yeah, the basketball one I loved. So your team designs the marketing imagery of the team for the year.
pretty much.
And do you have a role when you're there? Because there are different awards and different things you can do. I know. Is there an imagery component when you get there where you guys can win? Tell me how that plays out when you're actually at the competition.
I think we won a Team Spirit Award last year, right?
And we
And
won,
also imagery.
over the years, we won a lot of imagery awards. Yeah.
Well, because we have a strong design arm coming through the high school. I mean, I think that the arts, the whole fine arts branch of our work give people a lot of art time. So who do you guys do the design sketch? You look at the theme. Like, tell me how imagery figures out the trajectory of the marketing.
I guess we first look at the actual theme of the game for the year and try to incorporate that into the designs. Like this year is music, so we're incorporating a lot of musical elements into the design. We also want to make sure Redshift stands out. It's Redshift when you're looking at it. So putting Redshift and 4048 on the T-shirts and stuff. There's also we design hats and
Hats.
also
Do you
We
do
have a hat
the
every
one
year.
year though? The competitions are fascinating. Do you design the flags too? Do the flags change? So some years I've seen the teams that have flags and stuff. Have you ever done that? Have we ever done a flag?
We have a flag. We have one flag that we use.
But
over
it's
and over again.
Redshift,
Yes,
though, right?
yes.
It's the Redshift flag.
Yes.
So the thing with the flags is that at competitions, when they introduce you, like, oh, this time we got 40-48, you put the flag on the stage and the MC just waves it around.
Yeah.
But I think there's this one year we had cardboard cutouts of all of our seniors' heads, and we put it on stage, and then they're just waving it around, and you could see how embarrassed our drive team was.
I love it. I love it. So I think the feel of competition, and I want to come back to the craft of the robot, where the heart of this kind of lies. So when you go to competition, you guys are all there in different team segments. You've also got then people that drive the robot when you're there. Who are those people?
Some of them have driven here. Right? You guys have.
So you are actually there driving. So you're behind that screen area. Tell me what that's like when you're there at the competition.
It's very hectic. There's a lot going on in the 2 minutes that you have for a match. You can't. There's very little time to think. It's a lot of instinct, and that's why you have the coach, who is basically a third person that's not driving the robot or operating the robot, who basically tells you what's going on in the match in places that you may not be able to see, and also time, because you can't look at anything other than the robot.
Right.
There's a lot of there's so many other robots also going around that you have to predict where they're gonna go and all that stuff.
So you've got one. Is a coach one of your mentors?
No.
It's another student.
Okay, I love that. So, so then you got a coach behind you giving you information. You got somebody else giving you time, and then you're actually, when you're working in mechanics, what's your actual, like? Is it a small? What do you
So
driving with?
we have
This is the
two
operator, too.
flight sticks,
Joysticks.
yeah.
Like how big are they? Yeah.
they're
So like,
they're
are the? I can't remember. They're not that. Okay. So they're
Yeah.
kind of
They're
big.
fairly
Yeah,
large.
okay. Yeah.
And then so the person that uses the flight sticks only moves the robot around the field, and then there's the operator, who Cheyenne can tell you more about.
Yeah. So what's the operator doing?
So on our robots, we always have a lot of mechanisms. Not only does a robot have to drive around, but like last year, you had to go and you had to pick up a cone, and then you've got to get your arm out of the way so someone doesn't whack it, and bring it back out, and put it somewhere. This year will be taking game pieces and shooting them. So the driver isn't responsible for that. All the driver does is drive around.
I like.
Believe
that.
it or not, I know. And so as the operator, my job is to now control the rest of the systems on the robot. So that would mean if we've got a limb extended, right? We're ready to do something, and I see another robot flying toward us, I've got to do my best to get that arm out of the way so that nothing happens to it, and just control the different systems on the robot.
I love that. So you have two people, one working the mechanics of what's going on, and then one getting it there to do that work, basically.
Yeah.
And somebody watching the field to tell you. So are there three people then, coach and two people, or is there a third?
There's actually a
There's-
fourth.
So you actually get a
fourth and a fifth. But
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know they let that many people on the floor in that area.
no, there's a human player, as they call him, who's the fourth person whose role varies depending on the game that year. And then there's a technician. Has anybody been a technician?
No, it's the
Okay,
no
yeah, go ahead.
technician.
You
wanna-
can tell us. Yeah, what is a human player?
Oh,
So
that's right, you're a human.
yeah, so normally they just give the robot the game pieces. So last year I was in charge of moving around the cones and the cubes because it was on an elevated platform, and the robot would take it from there. And this year I'm gonna be depositing the notes, so like the little orange donut looking things
yeah.
on the ground for the robot to intake. And this year there's also an aspect where you have to throw the note onto what's called a microphone. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I have to like frisbee it
Yeah.
onto it. Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk about the aspect of competition. I think people that aren't necessarily robotics teams followers don't realize, like you talked about, the team feel and the collaboration, coordination, just kind of the challenge of it and the camaraderie. Give people a picture for what it's like in competition. Like give them a snapshot, because it's pretty crazy.
So one thing that whenever I explain this to family, friends, or whatever, one thing I have to explain because I forget to, is that these robots are big.
Yeah.
They're 2.5 feet wide, 2.5 feet long. Last year our robot was 4 feet tall. They weigh
They're
100.
heavy,
They
right.
weigh 125 pounds. They're big machines. They are also really, really powerful. So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
scale we're working on.
Tell me more. I know what I love about it. That's so cool, but I'd rather hear it from you guys.
playing
What's it
field,
like
too.
when you show up there and these teams are there and stuff?
Oh, it's really fun. Like, one of the biggest parts about being at competitions is getting to talk to so many different people. So there's this one area in like the field that we call the pits, which is where all the robots sit before the competition. Like you get on the field, and that's like the prime time to go talk to people and go interact with them. And it's so interesting to see. It's a little intimidating at first because there's some crazy good teams there.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot from them, really. Like we talk to a lot of different teams. We get a lot of different, how did you do the design? How did you implement these sort of ideas into your robot? And we sort of, take that as advice for the future. And it's really interesting to see all these. One of my favorite parts of the pits, though, is getting the pins that everybody has at each.
Yeah, I love that.
I actually have a giant Batman cape with a bunch of pins from different
love
teams on it.
that. I love
It's
it.
my favorite thing ever.
I should have had you wear it.
Okay. But it's great because each team usually have these funny little pins at their stations. Like some of them have like jokes on them, some of them are just like their team logo. But it's a big thing. I love collecting the pins every
Yeah.
single year. I have like 100 and something.
It's like it's like we do this when we go to conferences. It's just a scaffold. Like the pin draws you over. You get a chance to talk, gives you a reason to go and like make connections. And you each get like a pit area, or like you get a work area when they get there. And sometimes people decorate them and stuff. Like, so I think of it as like a big craft fair for people that don't know about robotics, where you go to these and they've got all the, or like a big conference where they have the industry, where you all have your area and you guys decorate them and you kind of put your identity on it right away. Is that part of imagery that you get there? Do you set that up? Like, do you do that bit?
Yeah, we decorate the pit. There's like a banner in the front. Like last year, we had a little we made a little robot mascot, and we had him like
Determination.
Oh, I love that.
We named it. Yeah.
we had him like playing with like the cones and cubes from the game. And also we designed the pins. Last year it was also the little mascot. Like he was like wearing safety glasses and being like, "Be safe."
I love that. That's all part of the Team Spirit Awards that they're looking at that. Like the judges are looking at your energy in your area, your design, your interaction, kind of all of that's part of, and then how you behave and act on the floor and all of that. It's kind of all part of the competition.
And actually, we because we have a team that's pretty tight. When we go to competitions, it's really a lot of fun to see the students cheering on their own team in the stands. Wearing, like last year we had the funny hats, which were a huge hit. So all that just kind of builds not just team spirit, but it also shows everybody else our spirit and what, the things that we do. And that's a wonderful thing. I think it's worth pointing out from the things that we talked about so far that what the team does and how it does it is very much like what you might do out in the industry. So, for example, talk about marketing, right? I mean, that is exactly a marketing technique or a marketing role. And even the whole thing about how do we approach a design from the kickoff. I mean, your kickoff is just sort of like a marketing requirement. Right? Here's what we want to build. Now you have to go in and design it. And the students get to learn that whole process.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not exactly the same, of course.
No, it's like
but
getting an industry contract. It's like, here it is. You got this.
Yeah.
Can you earn the contract? Can you
and you
create
decide
that?
what's important, what will
Exactly.
sell, and
Yeah.
what the customers want. So
So I want to hear about, two things. I want to talk about fundraising, and I'm watching our time and stuff, and I want to make sure we're getting to hit on everything. There's so many layers to this, and I guess what I want people to know is both the intensity of it, the high level of programming you're doing, and the iterative design process where you kind of figure out what's wrong with the robot or what you need to do to improve it. Can you talk about some of the big struggles you've had with robots over the years, or like a problem that was really hard to fix? Like, can you talk?
Yeah.
Tell me about tell me about the disasters and how they've been handled.
So, there can be, you have people building the robot, you have people coding the robot, and sometimes there is, a disconnect, or things aren't 100% clear how things are going to go, or things are prioritized. Like, I think last year one of the things software definitely could have worked on was we set a really high bar for what we wanted to be able to do, and our goal was to do a lot of things automatically, and we neglected a lot of the actual manual control. And so when things ended up breaking, or little bits of code ended up being wrong, we didn't have a fallback. And so we've sort of worked and are changing our philosophy to make things very have the manual foundations down first and then be able to do other things. I think also this year our design for our robot doesn't have as many points of failure per se.
Yeah, that's
and
key, yeah.
last year there were a lot of if the robot arm, we had problems with sprockets breaking, and it's always fun, but it's really good about fixing the chain.
I had to fix a lot of chains.
But
Go ahead. I want to hear about this fixing the chain thing. What happened?
So basically, we started off with one size of chain, but there was stuff wrong with like the sprocket and the amount of like tension and like force this sprocket was receiving. So we really should have used from the get-go a larger size chain and obviously the corresponding sprocket. But so at the first few competitions, it would go match after match. The chain would skip, so that would cause issues with, the raising and lowering of the arm. Sometimes the chain just broke. So there was lots of times where right after a match,
pit repair is what it is,
yes,
right?
I would have to run back to the pits and like change out the chain in 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's definitely like picture the car pits, where in between they come off and have to change everything in like 30 seconds. That's how I think about the pit recovery. When something breaks, sometimes you're literally stuck. You can end up being like outed of the competition in the sense that your robot, if it fails, you're out.
Yeah, I mean, when the chain broke, we couldn't raise or lower the arm at all.
Yeah, you're kind of done. You're kind of a lame duck. You can go in and disrupt others, though, if you, not to be that person, but being that I'm competitive.
No, defense is definitely very important.
Did you decide to shift to defense then?
Yeah, when that did happen, we would shift to defense.
Yeah.
The problem was last year was a game in which defense wasn't as useful as in previous games, so we weren't actually as useful as.
Right, but you don't give
want it
up.
to be,
Like, that's the other thing. Like, you don't just bail. You shift process. Yeah, cool.
The most things that broke, I think it was from 2022. There was multiple things that broke. I think almost every part of our robot, there was something that was wrong. I think it was at Springfield, our New England Championships. There was a great turret incident of 2022. So the turret was the thing. It was a basketball shooting one where it would spin at the top to shoot at a certain place. And there was also a different aspect where you had to climb these sort of monkey bar things. And one of the things was that you have to turn the turret before you climb, otherwise direct impact from your own robot is destroying that part. And during a practice, we did not turn it. And it ended up breaking, I think, was it 2 times? Twice.
Twice in 2 days.
Twice in 2 days.
Yeah, because there was that hook that then you could go up if you wanted to get extra points. There was like a whole elaborate, that was a tough challenge.
Yeah, and then the turret broke 2 times. And then there was the intake, which is the thing that picked up the ball. That also broke. I think it was right before the finals, like the final playoff sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we were all panicking, but then, it eventually got fixed, but it was very stressful.
I like there's so much authenticity in it. I think that's what's really important, is it's a completely authentic, on the ground experience in the sense that you don't know what's going to happen. You think you can respond, but you just have to. It's just, you're in the moment. It's like pure competition that way.
Another thing I really love about competitions is that when things like this happen, other teams jump in to help out. Like if we're missing a piece or if we broke a piece that we don't have replacements for, we can go up to sort of like a help desk and they'll broadcast over the speaker, and everyone in the pits,
Redshift is desperate.
everyone in the pits that has that one piece will come to them to the point where we have too many of the extra pieces. Like I remember last year, we were having some trouble with our battery connections, so another team came over with some parts and taught us how to make new connections for our batteries.
I love that. Yeah.
So I think they call it gracious professionalism is kind of like a theme that they.
Boy, wait, can I want to write that down? I need that one. Yeah, go ahead.
So
we shorten it to GP a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also kind of our inside joke. So gracious professionalism is essentially, it kind of explains itself.
Yeah, it does.
And cooperation.
And cooperation. So it really shows how the first community is it's just really just amazing. Everyone helps each other out. You're here to grow. You're here to learn. You're here to work together. And it's something I love about doing robotics?
I think it's such a great experience, and I'd love somebody else. We'll finish this up because I'm watching our time, and we try to keep our show reasonable. I could talk about this forever, but the alliances, like, so you've touched on this idea, like you're there competing. It's very intense. You guys want to win. You want your robot to do well. You want to advance. Like, this is serious business. It's not like you're just going to be okay if you do all right. Like, you guys are there for the competition of it. But underlying that, there's this culture of just everybody being there and in this shared community, which you can feel, and that's very, very exciting. So then talk about the alliances, because as people are getting bumped out, then at some point you join. How does that work? Like, as the competition advances, I found that a really interesting part of the competition. I didn't understand that at first.
So the way the competition is structured is every match is a 3v3. All right, so an alliance of 3 teams will come together, and they'll put 3 robots for their own alliance on the field, and the other alliance will do that as well. So it's 3 robots in teams against 3 other robots in teams, and this is it's really awesome. It's really fun because we end up meeting and playing with about every other team there is at the competition before we actually have to choose our teams, like the finalize for the.
So is somebody going out and like? So how do you pick an alliance? Like, what's
Yeah.
the strategic alliance plan?
So just to follow up on what Cheyenne was saying, let's say a competition has 40 teams. There's a match schedule that's prepared. So you're playing 3 against 3, but a team that you're playing with in one match might be a team you're playing against in a different match.
Right.
So that part is randomized. And then based on the standings after a certain number of matches, and I think we play normally 12 matches or so.
Yeah.
There are rankings, and
Yeah.
then based on those rankings, you now form and select your partners for the finale, and those are permanent threesomes that
Alliances through the
alliances.
close.
Yes.
And do you have to like go negotiate with them? Like, how does it work? Tell me how you. What are the
so-
behind the scenes on this?
Before the matches, you sort of like find everybody in the pits and you get to talk with them and strategize. So like if one robot is more defensive, then you have them play defense and you negotiate with what each robot's capabilities are to maximize how many points you can get in the game.
I love it. Are we well sought after for alliances? Are we?
always.
Well, I would think we would be because we're so awesome. I think a couple things that I want people to really step back and think about. One of the amazing things about Westborough and about being in high school nowadays in general, because there's lots of amazing teams you met at all these other schools, is that there's just so many layers to what makes up the school experience. And I think it can be really invisible that you guys are all taking rigorous academic schedules. You have other things you do. How many of you have other clubs, organizations, sports? There you go. How many of you sing? Any singers? No singers?
Band, only band.
How many band people do we have? I know band and orchestra. I see you at the other things. You guys are busy, and so it's very impressive to me that on top of the other things I see you at and the schedules you carry, that in Westborough you also have these kids who have this immense passion. And I think sometimes people portray young people as sometimes not feeling like committed and focused and having real passion for things. And I'm like, the world is going to be fine. Just give it to these people. We will be fine. I'm not worried. When I spend time with the high school, I leave reassured that the world's in a pretty good place if we just hand it to you and let you do your work. So the gracious professionalism, I'm going to use that one. I gotta definitely carry that one back to the team. I can feel how much fun it is for you. I can feel the energy. I can sense the quality of the work. And the inside training and mentorship is the other part that's invisible that I think people need to know. Like, if this looks interesting to you, if you're thinking you've got a kid and you're thinking they would love that, they can just come check it out. This is the most inclusive, open group to be able to let you come and experience it. They'll teach you as you go. You guys teach people to weld, you teach them to code, you teach them you can fold in anywhere. And I've been so impressed by that, to watch the mentorship where someone be like, I've never welded, show me how to do this. And they'll just teach you right there. It's just so amazing, the level of mentorship that you have. How many adult mentors do you have that work with you guys?
Let's see. I think we have We have probably.
You want to name them all?
7 primary mentors.
Do you have more mentors than Roger Anderson has assistant coaches?
Now, on the mentoring side, we have I think the count is 7 as our primary mentors, and we have a few others who are kind of like part-time. And for me, one of the things that I really enjoy is seeing some of our former students who graduated, who've gone through, they graduated from college, who then come back and help out. And I think that's wonderful.
You should do all of that.
I can't speak about how beneficial it is to have the mentors and have people who do this sort of thing for a living, who work in software, work in hardware, manufacturing, robotics, all that stuff, and then you learn from them things that you wouldn't get in school. You wouldn't get that. They just have this understanding and real life experience that sort of is is embedded into how they make their decisions, and it rubs off on you, and it's amazing to
the apprenticeship model basically, and the robotics team is a really in-depth apprenticeship model where you're really getting high-level training through the work of the competition and the robot to really have an advanced mentorship at a level which is really impressive. So things we want people to know is you can always give these guys money. They love getting donations. It's an expensive little event. You can go to a competition. You guys have a website.
Yep.
You can go to competitions. They are so enjoyable. If you got a little person, take them to see. The competition is so fun, so enjoyable, and you can really get a feel for what it is. We also have a Blue Shift that is over at Gibbons, and before we finish up, I just want to share a little bit about that, because can you tell us what Blue Shift is about and how big they are and what they're doing?
So Blue Shift is our club at the middle school. It's run exclusively by Redshift students.
Go, go, go.
So essentially our goal or mission is to try and introduce these middle schoolers to robotics and kind of to the idea of our team and FRC before they get to the high school, so then when they do get to the high school, they are already on their way to join our team.
I love that.
And so they have their little kits. We put them into groups, and they work over the year to build their kit, and then we teach them how to code the robot, and they work to solve challenges. I think the biggest one right now we have is a giant wooden maze. Shout out to Mrs. Cody, by the way, for being an awesome teacher that lets us use her storage and her room for her club, our club.
It really, the mentorship, you guys are basically taking the model of apprenticeship and mentorship and bringing it down to the middle school, showing them the inclusivity of the group and the ability to kind of train people and to welcome people in. It can be intimidating. I mean, you get in there, you guys are very intimidating. You start talking all the branches of your different interests, and you don't even realize how sophisticated your knowledge is. And when you're trying to think about entering, it can be intimidating, but you guys are not that. That's what's really amazing. The Blue Shift team's awesome. I love the fact that we modified that so it's not one big robot, because you had said this, it can be hard to get in on the robot. Everyone wants to get to the robot, but the differentiation means, and I know you've even done some smaller robot builds so people can practice. I love the way you've differentiated, because it's a natural instinct for people to want to be able to do that. Blue Shift, also very vibrant, enjoys the quality of support that comes from the high school. I hope you keep that mentorship rolling, because it's pretty powerful. So you can give Redshift money. You can go to a competition. We can support them through, letting people have your child join Blue Shift, explore what it is to be part of this, because what you want is in the trajectory of your journey through school, you got to plug into stuff that matters, and you got to be able to have fun, and it's clear that that's what this does.
And I'll add, if anybody who's watching would like to mentor, we can always use more mentors, and you don't have to know a thing about robotics, right? It's just about being able to work with students, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's really it.
One more thing I'd like to add is please go follow our Instagram, Redshift4048.
Yes, I do follow you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And we have a Facebook page,
Facebook.
and a YouTube channel.
Yeah, all of that. Go follow. TikTok too.
I don't have
newly
TikTok.
made
As
account.
my daughter says, I watch my TikTok on Instagram like any good adult, But yeah, I don't have my own
But you know what?
TikTok.
We're there on both, so go check us out.
Definitely, you really should. It's fun to see. They post a lot of good stuff. Any last words before we finish up? Those are good last comments.
That's our
You got a last word, inside joke?
Yeah. Do I explain it or do I just say it?
Just say it.
I think you should say.
Okay, it isn't kids building robots, it's robots building kids.
Oh, I like that. That's like a logo. It's like a motto. All right, thank you for joining us. I hope you have enjoyed this little bit of Superintendent Spotlight. These are the things that we get when you work in education. I'll remind you can go into education too, because there is no better field. You get opportunities to build youth, to watch them thrive, and it's an amazing, amazing field. So thank you guys. I broke
Thank
you out
you.
of school on a Friday. You can take the slow walk back, and thanks for being with us. All right, take care.